How you doing, buddy?
Good. And welcome to the actual first. This is going to be the first ever podcast that we're actually going to produce and upload and all that.
Yeah.
So, welcome everybody to the Permanent Mark podcast. So, we're going to talk a little bit about, I don't know, what the podcast is going to be and the kind of guests we'd like to have so that when people see this, they'll know to contact us. I'm Mike. I'm your host. This is Mark. He's your co-host.
With the most
I don't know if I'd say that.
movies.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Why do you? It's like instantly weird.
Because that's what I do.
So Mark and I have been friends for well over 30 years now, and I've got hair and he doesn't. Condescending sip.
Yeah. Thanks.
But we both have nice beards, so
Yeah.
that's the one thing. Anyway, so today we're just kind of go over what I think we should be doing, and then you can spitball with me and kind of figure it out because everything's always evolving.
Nothing off limits.
I mean, maybe.
No topic.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. You
I'm
never
not
know.
gonna do some weird things.
You know, I mean, you don't really know. It could be. I mean, it just depends. We'll have to feel it out. So, first, I'd like to thank you for kind of sticking out this whole thing. It's been a couple of months, obviously, that we've been trying to get this together. So,
Well, while you've been doing that, I've been kind of doing the setting up for the kids, trying to get them.
yeah, the
set
girls
up.
going, yeah.
But kind of life has kind of gotten in the way a little bit.
Holidays and
Yeah.
such.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ideally, I'd like to have people that have really interesting stories that they would like to tell come on the podcast and talk to us from any walk of life for any reason, political, sports, religion. Like you said, nothing's
Life
off.
life
yeah,
stories, just what's
nothing's
shaped
off
you into
topic.
who you
but
are.
get up on the mic.
Oh.
Nothing's off topic, but I also don't want to be crude. I don't want to. I'm not trying to be the Hawk-Tuah girl here.
No condescending.
Well, it's totally everything's going to be condescending. Yeah. So,
Kind of want to dissect where your conversations kind of
Sure.
go and try to kind of give it a psychological type of I don't know. If you
yeah, I
kind
mean,
of got to know where I'm going.
I think that there are people. There's tons of stories to be told about life experiences and how things have changed you and how, especially with just even within our friendship and our relationship for the last 30 plus years, there's been a lot that has happened.
Lots.
I mean, there's lots, and we both have stories to be told that may never get told. We may never do ones just on us, but we'll pull from those experiences and.
Where do we start? Jeez.
Well, I mean, I've got a couple of people that I know that want to already do the podcast, so
Right.
we'll start there.
Well, do we kind of want to give an introduction of like our story?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, you can.
Well.
I think that's the mystery is like, who are these guys? Like when we start talking to people, we could talk about the things that we've experienced through.
Right.
What things form, like your strong opinions about things, my strong opinions about things.
Yeah.
And everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has traumas. I don't want to say traumas, but shit they've been through. Our generation, we're both 40 plus. We are the last true generation that didn't grow up with media in our face until we were almost in our 20s.
Yeah.
We had cell phones when we were teenagers, but
We had flip phones.
Motorola.
We had
Nokias, and we didn't have the real pressure of we didn't have the real pressure of social media. MySpace didn't even come around till we were exiting high school. I don't believe. I think
The only thing that was exciting about doing anything on the internet was downloading illegal music.
correct. Yeah, and that was Napster,
Napster
and all those things, and that's going to be a great. I think there are a lot of people that are in our bubble of generation, because I do think that because we grew up the way we did, kind of one foot in and one foot out, that we share a
We share the
generational
ability
connection.
to relate with an older generation.
It's like a generational connection. We're like a bridge, bridge.
We are exactly that.
So I think I hope to talk to a lot of people that are of, all spectrums. You have these younger kids, and I hate to say kids in their 20s. They are.
Right.
We both have kids that are a lot closer to being in their 20s than they are to being 10.
Oh my God.
Right?
You just gave me chills.
Yeah, our oldest children are getting old now, and we're in a lot of ways still experiencing being dads for the first time in that way. So that's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because I certainly don't handle things with these kids.
We handle things totally different, especially with girls. And I'm a girl dad. You've got both.
Yeah. So
the way I handle things, the way
imagine
that you might handle things.
So if you're a dad out there, or you're a parent, you want to come in or contact us about if you've had a unique situation you want to talk about, or if you've experienced some tragedy, which I have with children. We're totally open to that. Full disclosure, the original purpose of what we were going to do is talk to people that had amazing artwork and tattoos and things like that, and we're still going to do those things. It's not going to go away. I would like for that to be a kind of a jump off point for everybody, because our generation again is very much into those kinds of things,
right?
Tattoos and body modifications and things like that. Also very conservative. I am anyway. There's a lot of things that I don't agree with that go on. So those are topics that we'll touch on and talk to people about, and hope that we have some really good conversation about it. Because this is not, my goal is not to beat up on somebody because they feel a different way, but to have civil, as much as we can, conversations.
Yeah, we want to bring back civil conversations
you're allowed,
though we may disagree.
Yeah, you're allowed to disagree. I don't know if anybody ever told anybody that. Do y'all know that? You can completely disagree with somebody and
still drink a beer with them.
Right. You don't
and
you don't
enjoy
have to,
their conversation.
Right.
And company. Just because you don't agree doesn't
just
mean
because you don't agree,
all of a sudden hate them.
coexist.
You're not a racist.
To be with somebody, yeah. I mean, a bigot or homophobe or genderist. Is that what they're calling them now? And we fall into those categories.
Right.
It's pretty simple. Mark and I have been friends so long. I know most of the time what you're thinking. So for us, it's very easy. It's just we're here to talk about you and things that you've gone through, or experiences that you feel like other people can benefit from, and we want to be the conduit for that story.
It could be what you've been through. It could be what you're going through, and anything.
Well, I don't want to say anything.
Well, I mean, we're saying,
yeah, most things.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want an interesting conversation, about an hour, whatever it takes.
45 minutes,
something like
hour.
that to get it done. So interesting conversations, unique point of views, and bring the disagreement, because as we move forward through this, we're definitely going to do that. With that, we'll talk about current events. Normally with each podcast, I will have done some research. Most of it's going to be right now political, because everything's very hot.
Right.
And there are things that he and I slightly disagree on anyway. So it'll be interesting to do that just from our perspective, just talking to you guys. And then when we get our guests in, which hopefully is frequent enough for us to do a few of these a week, we can, have those conversations with them and see how they feel about things. So we've said a lot without saying much.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We've kind of rolled around in circles.
Well, yeah. So today was a very interesting day. Last week, it was announced that the president of Ukraine was going to be visiting the United States. I believe they said that it was either last Friday or Monday of this week. out
It
there.
was Monday or Tuesday.
The internet's going to fact check me. I don't really give a shit. Okay. The fact of the matter is, he came in today. He was a half hour late.
Oh, I didn't know that.
According to news reports, this man showed up late, and I think that there are very few things that demand a level of formal wear in your life. Okay? Celebrations, bat mitzvahs, funerals. If you work for an attorney or a nice job like that, you wear a suit, right?
You dress for the occasion.
You dress for the occasion, and even if you've met a person before, you don't bring your casual game. And I know it was brought up, and this is not, believe me, at all tie in. Zelensky showed up in paramilitary gear today to the president to talk to him, and President Trump and Vice President Vance. He showed up.
I'm sure it was intentional.
I'm sure it was. I think he was very much trying to send some variety of message today. He came because we cut off funding. Again, internet, fact check me. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm gonna say what I feel, regardless if it's the 100% truth. But I will promise you, I will tell you exactly how I feel about it.
It's your opinion,
right? And I try to keep it factual as I can, because there's a lot of
misinformation.
There's not
disinformation.
There's not even that. It's just people that straight up hate the president, and there are people that just hate the president all the time. Don't get it twisted, because there are people that hated Biden and then hated Trump before that, and certainly hate Trump now, and they just hate America and what we stand for, regardless of how you feel about who the president is, if you agree with him or not. America is not the president. America is a concept. You can't just say, oh, it's how
it's an experiment that's still continuing on.
For over 200 years. Yeah. So, suck it, Britain. But Zelensky shows up today, half an hour late. The intention.
What, does he think he's the president of the United States?
Well, I believe the intention today was for him to come in and basically sign a agreement, a ceasefire, if you would, or some variety of agreement to begin structuring a deal with Russia. This all just broke, and we have lives and we work, so I'm just going to tell you what I know about it for now. And I know you saw the video, but they had a brief meeting, then they went into the Oval Office where they had a press conference, and it all went well up until a certain point where I think that the temperature of the room changed drastically from what I can see, and in my opinion, of the straight out disrespect and contention that I believe Zelensky had for whatever they were talking about, which then shot our vice president off into
this was a PR move. Totally
100%. Yeah.
PR.
Yeah, and what really happened was they were talking about what had happened prior during the Obama administration, where Russia had invaded certain parts of Ukraine. Huh?
With Crimea, I think.
Correct, yeah. I think that's what he was talking about, and how essentially the U.S. did nothing, and Trump later on during this, let's just call it playful banter for lack of a better term, said to him, and I'm paraphrasing and I'm going to get it wrong, but, Obama brought you blankets and I brought you...
Oh, no, it was sheets.
Sheets. I brought you sheets, and when I was president, gave you... Javelins, right? So to help him beat back what they had already done. And they had been there at that point for several years. It wasn't a lack of President Trump then in the 2020s being active. It was another failed Obama, and Biden by de facto, issue. And Zelensky had an issue with it then, continues to have an issue with it now.
Well, if I don't remember, though, at that time, Zelensky was not the president.
No, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole. So, obviously we're doing podcasts. I'm a podcast fan. Joe Rogan had a guest on last week, and they were talking about the U.S. aid And this is all connected. U.S. aid and how the U.S. aid was really and again, this is not factual. I believe this is this man's opinion. If it proves to be fact, then it's a big problem. But how the CIA was using U.S. aid, USAID, to fund other countries, not only just for the countries, but also to insert whatever
ideals,
leadership that they thought they should have. Get up on the mic. Whatever leadership they felt like they should have. And Zelensky, before he was president, we all know what he did, right?
Yeah, he was a comedian.
Reality star, comedian, whatever you want to call it. He wasn't a political figure. Now, the fire back to that is that Trump is the same way, but Trump from the 80s has been talking about how the country has been moving. And, he's not innocent in any of that either. He took advantage just like every other person that was way richer than we'll probably ever be. Let's hope. We hit it, but we're probably not going to reach Trump level.
He was flat out said it. The taxes, the way he'd file taxes, if it's there, he's going to utilize
which every smart person, every smart business person has ever done.
Right.
So you can't.
If you don't want them to do something, you have to change the tax code.
Right. So you can't fault him for that, in my opinion.
That's just
but
smart.
If the U.S. aid vis-a-vis the CIA was promoting and inserting I will in the YouTube in our link I will post the link for this, and if you have Spotify or even if you want to look it up on YouTube, they talk about how some of the funds were used across many countries to reduce the kind of voting you can do, to not require voter ID in other countries, not just America, not the stuff we talked about last year during the last.
Which makes zero sense.
For us or for other countries?
Any country.
In general.
Any country.
In general, yeah. So you should have an ID to vote. I don't think you have to have an ID to literally do anything. The fact that you don't need one to vote in some states,
which is such an important part of identifying who you are.
Again,
it makes no sense. Why would you not?
Well, I mean,
unless there's an alternative motive.
And again, I strongly encourage everybody to do the research and hear what people that are way smarter than I am, or especially this dummy right here, way smarter than him.
Thanks.
To look up what Doge has found out so far. But anyway, I'm getting way off track. So let's just, and I say Zelensky as the president was very,
he was very disrespectful to the office.
He was disrespectful.
Who cares
to the
who
office.
it was?
And he what really set it off was he went to JD Vance and said, "Hey, well, what do you know? You've never even been there." And to a great point, Vance has not had the chance or the opportunity, maybe not even the desire before. I mean, we're talking about a guy that I'm going to say probably 10 years ago or so was doing work for our country in uniform.
Right.
Wherever he was, I don't know, and I don't pretend to know. But it wasn't like... And then since then, he's been a senator, right? He was Senator Vance, right? For Ohio, correct? I think so.
That's where I'm done.
I'm pretty sure. But he was busy doing that. And by the way, during that time, he was very anti-Trump. He was a non-supporting Democratic or a Republican and was critical of Trump during his first term. And we all know he switched teams or switched his mind anyway. And Zelensky says, "Well, you've never been there. What do you know about it?" To paraphrase. To which his rebuttal was, "I've seen it, I've heard it, I've read the reports, I know what's going on there, and frankly, at this point, you're just being disrespectful to us." Asked if he's ever even said thank you for all the work that has been done. So instead of Zelensky's going, "You know what? Thanks a lot for everything you've done so far," he just said, "Well, I've said thank you already," in this very... I don't want to say arrogant way.
Right.
He was,
and JD Vance was very like, "I'm talking about in this meeting."
Right. Yeah.
Not in general,
right.
But in this meeting. In this meeting have you ever said thank you? Have you said it once? No. And
that
should be like the first thing that should have been mentioned in the beginning of the conversation.
And then they just continued to scold
Mr. President, I'd like to thank you for your continued support, or your country's support. I know that right now we are facing disagreements where we are at, And I'd
And
like
that's
to
what
come
he said.
to.
He said you're trying to litigate this in public, in a public forum. To what? To what end? You're not.
That was the first. I honestly think that was like the first type of meeting, because it wasn't supposed
Normally
to be. That wasn't a meeting. That was a impromptu, forced on conversation.
Correct.
Which was disrespectful.
Right.
Just like those are the types of conversations that are supposed to be happening behind closed doors.
Normally it does. Normally,
I don't think that's ever happened in our history.
I mean it. Not
in the Oval
not
Office?
In recent history. Not in the Oval Office. And you've got to play ball. If you're another country right now.
I wonder how hot it was when it was behind doors.
Well, they asked him to leave during lunch. Whatever happened after that, they went to go have lunch, and they asked him to remove himself.
Well, they had the meeting prior, didn't they?
They had a short meeting before. They were going to do the press thing,
right,
and then go have lunch. Zelensky never made it to lunch. They asked him to leave,
and
he's left. He's gone. Then he went on Fox, which I haven't seen yet.
Okay.
And did.
Well, I'm sure they blasted him on Fox.
I don't know. I mean, I saw some.
I have
clips of it. TikTok is a great thing, but I didn't watch everything. But for him to go on there, and then there was a point where I believe they could have maybe taken the temperature down a little bit, but Zelensky was insistent to get whatever point he was trying to say about J.D. Vance and other things. I think he wanted to propagate a story, so that when he had the opportunity to go back to his country, he could say, "Look what I did for us in public," and call out Trump and J.D. Vance.
I was strong in front of the world.
And then Trump basically said to him, he said to him in the exact words that he doesn't have the influence he used to. He doesn't have any cards to play with Trump. There's none. He doesn't hold any power or any influence over Trump and what he's going to do whatsoever.
Yeah, he said that there's no one that he aligns alliance to any country but the the United States,
and therefore
to
the
the
world.
peace of the world,
right?
But not to Putin.
And Zelensky goes on. You all right there?
I'm dying.
Okay,
it's been a rough 5 weeks.
So, and he has to at one point grab him and say, "You are going to start. You're gambling with the lives of your people." Mm-hmm. And then and JD at some point had already said, or around that time had said, "You're struggling to get people to even enlist in your army. You're sending everybody you got to the front lines, and they're dying because you're struggling. You're not capable.
Right?
You're losing. You've already lost, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And if it hadn't been for us," Trump says, what would have happened?
World War III.
If it hadn't been for us, you would have lost already. It would have been over.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gambling. You're continuing to go on because of his own needs. I don't know, but he's gonna potentially if everything had kept on going and Trump loves to throw a shot at Sleepy Joe whenever he can. If it had been what I would imagine would have been the plan, that's what would have happened, because you're gonna have a very small country that was did they not defect from Russia when they were the USSR? Is that what it was? You know what we have in front of us? A Google box.
Yeah, we do.
And you have this just sense of entitlement. Yep.
I'm just looking at the computer here. The recording.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be 2 boxes?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
So August 21st of 1991, when did Ukraine gain independence from Russia in 1991?
So that was when the Soviet Union...
They voted for independence.
Okay.
The Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic adopted a Declaration of Independence on August 24th, 1991. That would have been after the Cold War.
Yeah. The reorganization of the country, of Russia.
And it says here, this is the Google box, probably wrong, could be right. How did they gain their independence? Why don't you go and say what it says? How did they do that? Who do they lean on to do so? The United States.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Did the work to promote
Ukraine's economic and political stability. We seem to do that a lot around the world.
maybe to create adversity. I don't know. So, this has maybe been going on, for nearly 30 years at this point. 30 plus years.
Was this ever, what's the word?
Hmm?
Did Russia, this was part of Russia.
Right.
Was this ever a accepted situation here? Like, did they say, okay, you can be your own country? Or did they say, or have they always looked at Ukraine as still a part of?
Well, right now, I don't know.
Have they ever recognized the separation?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the history. What I do know right now is that Ukraine is very rich in raw materials, which
I'd like to know what those materials are.
It's, things and stuff. Natural materials, right? That's what they want. It's not about the land.
That it's so interesting that with right now with what they were intending on signing. I'd love to know what those minerals are, but maybe there's a reason.
You never know. Well, we never know. We may never know. But then again, with Trump, saying that they have, they're going to be as open and honest as they can with us. Maybe we will find out what this is all about. But right now, they're saying it's over resources. And
well, I mean, they got to pay back somehow.
There's a lot of mutual exchange of resources going on as it was. So, of course, and it's probably a really good thing that Trump got to the point where he was clear enough to say, I'm not I'm not backing Russia. I'm just simply saying if we have to have peace. I don't want a war. I don't want even you guys need to sign the ceasefire. And basically, Zelensky's like, no. And then he brought up a bunch of other stuff, and he's just basically
because he's making it sound like he doesn't trust.
So subsequently, he's not going to receive any more aid from the U.S. I mean, that's what's going to happen. He's just not going to get any more money.
Let him get it from the other countries. We don't.
Well, but that's the thing is that's why they want them to join
NATO.
So NATO can step in and help them.
Well, what's going to happen. If that happens, we're going to be out of NATO. Trump won't stand for that.
So it's just crazy. It's so ridiculous.
And if they do, is he really going to step down?
I don't know. And
he wants to stay at war so he wants to stay at war so he can stay on top.
Well, take it as you will. I feel for the Ukrainian people.
Absolutely.
Because they have a leader.
I wouldn't go as far as saying dictator, but
no, but he's a leader.
Yes,
he's elected, but he also got like 92% of the vote or something like that, and basically ran unopposed. And he was famous,
right?
Impressive to get that much of a vote. But anyway, I feel bad for the people that are being, put in harm's way because it does just seem like. It seems like Russia is on board, or at least on the table, to have a ceasefire where nobody else has to die, and then they can have a litigation over the land rights. And that's also not a good thing. You don't want another country invading another one. All of those are bad, but that happens every day across the planet, everywhere,
right?
All the time. Everybody's fighting for something they don't make anymore, and that's land. Everybody wants more of land. Doesn't matter who you are. America's guilty of it too. Even joking at the fact that
Greenland.
more specifically, Canada would become the 51st state. I think.
I could say, I'd see Canada before we'd see Puerto Rico.
I don't know. So, the Canadians don't like us very much right now. Although you know what, I don't know that for a fact though, because that's just what the news tells you. So you don't know. It seems like on Twitter they're a little bit upset.
Do you watch Fox often?
No, I don't watch the news at all.
Do you?
No.
Yeah,
all of my news comes from podcasts or from Twitter.
So I used to be very, very liberal. I don't even think I really was very liberal. I think that I just watched the very left-leaning CNN.
Sure.
I never watched MSNBC. They were just always crazy to me. But I grew up with CNN, and where I'm going with this is, I started talking too much.
Too much words?
Too many words.
Too many words in your face?
Yeah.
You're talking about how they...
So what I was getting at is, if you've watched Fox at all, it seems to me, because I don't think that these commercials are happening on CNN or MSNBC, but there's Canada, like pro Canada. In Canada, we support the support the United States. They're paying for their commercial time, and they're being played on Fox Network.
You know what? Yeah, and that's
like we've been a friend of the United States, forever, and blah blah blah. And
well, I mean, as Canadians, peoples inside their territories, they have to know and accept the fact that America is not just a great friend; it's the pit bull. It's protecting your yard. And that needs to be reciprocated, and I don't necessarily know for the last 4 years it had been reciprocated. I don't know, and I'm ignorant to it, and it's...
As I am.
Yeah, they may have, there are a lot of people out there that have very scary scenarios for what has happened during the Biden administration. There are some scary things that potentially would have happened, including letting, highly trained, and by the way, which would have been American trained members of Al-Qaeda, and which has ties to Syria, obviously, and that region of the world, and having these refugees that are here that are not necessarily refugees that are actually here to do horrendous things that we've never, besides 9/11, we haven't had a big scare in quite a while. And there was on Sean Ryan's podcast, and I'm sorry, but I've forgotten the name of the lady and even what she did for the government, but essentially described what she knows in documentation, knows that Al-Qaeda has trained people to come here and live and be part of society, and then be activated to do things like suicide bombings, where you have a first device and a second device, and then I don't know if she called it kamikaze or whatever it is, but people that will fight until they're dead or you're dead, one of the two. So those things, that's a scary thought. That could be anywhere, any mall, anytime. And then there's aliens or extra dimensional beings. A lot has happened in the last year in the world. A lot. Not to mention the struggles of your people.
Yeah. I mean, it's been October 7th, 23. Was a big blow to the Jewish people, to the state of Israel, and it was a sober reminder of our history not so long ago. Certainly not in the same numbers of people, but this was a reminder of the Holocaust. These are things that can't be forgotten.
Yeah.
And, I'm not thank God. I mean, hey, there may be, I don't know. My great-grandfather from my father's side was adopted. So I don't know if there are any Holocaust survivors. I do know that most of my father's side is from Russia. So, but in my mother's side, her not being born Jewish, and we have German, but there could be Jewish in the family line on that side that we just don't know about. And it's hard to believe that we're like 3 to 4 generations now post Holocaust. And
so, yes, to all that. Go ahead. No. Finish your thoughts.
It's fine. My biggest concern is, I don't know. Especially United States children. Our kids. Mm-hmm. They know so much about violence. They are used to all this horrendous violence, and I don't want to say games, but the video games that they play now, which were
Just
even when we were
They're
kids,
jaded by it.
they are. They're so numb,
Yeah.
and we have we're a society, and and it's definitely not just the United States. It very well could be a majority of the planet that they're all about. It's me, me, me.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't affect me, why should I care? There's a major reason why you should care. For me, being Jewish, we were a thriving entity of of a religion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we. God, I was just reading the statistics on how many Jewish people would probably be in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the number, but it was like just astronomical. Like they're saying now, in the entire world, there's just about 12 million Jewish people, and
Legitimate, like, not converted Jew.
right.
Yeah.
No, well, I think they count all of it.
Wow.
I don't think not to go into a rabbit hole of,
Yeah.
but all different branches. We have Reformed.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah, but not just the religion of the people, but the culture and the DNA of the people.
correct.
Yeah.
And that's what we are. We would be upwards of. We'd be neck and neck with Christianity,
Right.
At this point in time.
Yeah.
And I've seen some terrible, terrible things on TikTok. I had some things. It's crazy because I used to laugh at some of these things
Yeah.
because they were minor things. You and I, the banter that we would do back and forth, and then all of a sudden I am getting loaded on such anti-Semitic content, and it's disgusting and it's disturbing.
You know what? There's two things about that. One is, like you said, because I don't think we live in Florida, which has the second largest population of Jewish people outside of New York, I believe.
I don't know that to be
I
correct,
think
but it's possible.
I think it's true.
It would be down
It sounds true.
East Coast,
It sounds true.
Palm Beach.
Let's just say it is true. Okay.
It's probably.
I think it's pretty close.
There's good chances.
There's a lot of New Yorkers here. Anyway, but I don't think, and even back when we were in the late 90s, early 2000s, when we were in high school, we didn't really go deep into, like, we knew the Holocaust was something that had happened, and that was like, oh, we all know about what happened and how it happened, and not necessarily, I don't want to say the why of what happened, but this is a terrible smudge on the world history. And we fought a big ass war over it, and eventually, much, much too late.
Which goes to what I was talking to you before.
Right. Much, much too late to get involved, to do anything. And because by the time
we got in too late, the United States got involved too
once
late.
we got into Poland, that was kind of, it was a stronghold. Anyway, to that kind of, not in the same vein, but I'm sure there are some beautiful people that are in Syria.
Absolutely.
I don't understand how nobody draws the connection to the terrible Hamas and what has happened with the Middle East in the last 25 years for certain, and how there is something bigger than all of us that it must be driving that. Why? I mean, yes, thousands of years of disagreements. For Christ's sake, there's a huge wall, but to this level, you got to wonder why.
What wall are you speaking of? What wall are you speaking of?
There's a wall around Jerusalem, right? Isn't there?
That's the temple.
Oh, is that? Well, whatever it is, there's a huge wall there to protect them, and they have the Iron Dome. That's what I'm talking about. Not the wall.
Okay.
Sorry,
Because the
Iron
wall
Dome.
has nothing
Talking
to
about
do
the wall.
with.
Sorry, didn't mean the wall. Thinking China.
Okay.
The dome, and they had to do that.
The Iron Dome.
Right. But the global look of this is, I would say, 50-50. I would say 50-50. If you went to any college campus right now in America that has been indoctrinated with these fucking lunatics that want to teach our young people rhetoric and bastardized historical stuff, a rabbit hole you could go down is very recently. I mean, within the last, I'm sure you've seen it, is apparently AI was used to recreate some of Hitler's famous speeches. Have you seen that? Where he gets up there and talk about wanting not to drop bombs and all this other stuff. Allegedly, I don't speak German at all. They teach this, and I'm not going to say the sugarcoating what happened during both of the Great Wars,
Right.
but I don't think they really impress upon people how much that changed the world and how there is a right and wrong side of history. And to see videos, other YouTubers out there visiting college campuses everywhere, not just progressive states, even here, even in Florida, with people walking around with Syrian flags on and pro-Syria groups, and I stand with Syrians, and then there's a very small group of
It's just like
Jewish. Go ahead.
Well, did you watch the Super Bowl halftime?
No, I refuse to watch it.
Oh, it was terrible. But like I saw the clips of somebody with a Syrian flag.
Yeah. Oh, he ran on the field, right?
Well, he was one of the performers.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
he was one of the performers.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I don't think objectively what Hitler did was wrong, and Charlie Kirk says this in many arguments, is that you just don't, and people will go, well, depends on what your point of view of wrong is. No, Hitler was wrong.
Right.
No ands or buts about it. Syria is going to have a very long, the ceasefire already ended that they signed because they're already shooting people still. But their country is decimated. Major cities wiped off. There's nothing left. But they're still fighting.
For what?
Well, that's the question I have, is because I don't know. I don't know what the real gripe is. Do you? Other than just pure hatred for Jewish people? Again, I'm ignorant. Fact check me. Put me on the internet. Educate me. Come on. We can do
The
all
Jewish
these.
people have been used as a scapegoat for a long, long time.
Yeah, this is like this topic of conversation stuff between you and I. We could probably rub a couple sticks together and figure it out. But I'd like to have people in here that knew.
Yeah.
That can share their point of view. And even on the Ukrainians, there's a lot of people. I mean, you drive down the road every single day and you see those little stickers, little Ukrainian flag
Mm-hmm.
stickers on the back of people's cars, or I stand with Ukraine.
Yeah.
Or donate
Regardless of what side of it you stand on, it needs to stop. This fighting, this war has to come to an end. No, Russia was not right for invading that country.
No.
And it should never have happened. But what led up to that?
Well, I mean, it didn't happen.
It didn't just happen. It was
Trump
they knew it was coming.
Listen, say what you will. You treat Trump kept Putin. He kept on putting him in his place. Dad humor. But they had a relationship, and you can call it that because I'm sure it is a relationship where they have disagreements and quorums, but he, in my opinion, kept Putin from invading him way sooner than he wanted to. Putin is not a good person. Not saying that. And objectively, he is wrong for what he has done. But if you're a superpower, which Russia is a superpower, China is a superpower, and America is the superpower across the planet, we shouldn't be policing anybody, but we should certainly be at the table when decisions are made about what's going to happen. And right now, Ukraine doesn't stand a chance. None. No chance. Unless somebody else gets involved and starts paying for it, they stand no chance. It'll be over strictly from a strategical play, and Russia will have then taken over Ukraine, or they come to an agreement, and Ukraine gets to keep their sovereignty, have a new election, because I think part of the deal would be Zelensky would be removed from power, and then they would have a special election to find a new leader. But at this point, Zelensky's already been president way too long over there.
Well, the thing about that is in their constitution, it does state that in a time of
Correct.
war, that there would be no elections, that the current president would be
That's just
residing.
like here. If we had a war on American turf, there would be no the electoral college would be suspended.
If it was on our turf.
If it was here, yeah. If
Right.
there was another civil war or revolutionary war or something like that.
Back to the meeting, Zelensky. It was pretty. It was wrong, him making that comment about. Essentially, he made a comment of war being brought to to the country. He made it.
Basically, that we've been lucky. We're
Yeah.
protected by an ocean, and that's what set Trump off. He was going to be fine. You don't. That shit probably slid all the time with Biden. Veiled threats like that.
Right.
And
I'd like to know where.
But-
what does he know?
nothing. He doesn't know
He's
anything. He
just
knows
shooting
nothing.
shit out of his fucking mouth.
Exactly. He knows nothing. He has, just like Trump said, you have no cards, no power. The power that has been given to you is from the good old United States, motherfucker. That's where your power came from. You didn't just come up with $100 billion of weapons.
I remember not too long ago,
America.
I had a conversation with my mother. And yes, we have different politics. Mine have evolved immensely over the past 6 to 8 years, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to her about Zelensky.
Mm-hmm.
I said, devil's advocate. Here we are all believing all of this information that is coming from him. What if it's him that's I don't want to say he could be the next Hitler, but it didn't take a lot for in a time in history for someone to persuade a country to believe in his ideals, blaming it on people. I don't know.
Listen,
I don't.
You're right, because
I just was like a devil advocate. Maybe what if he's not? Maybe what if he's the bad one?
let me tell you, that's what your not your mom specifically, but people that are of the same maybe mental track as your mother say is happening right here, right now in the United States. They are fully convinced that what Trump is doing is the propaganda, and not that we have been propagated for the last several years.
Yes.
Going way further back than I think that we could possibly think. I think the smoking gun in this whole thing is the number of voter turnout from 2020
to 2024.
We're talking about, I think it was 11 million less votes.
Right. Interesting.
Very interesting. And then now Doge finding all these. I mean, there's something fishy about a lot of things that have probably happened since. We'll put a date on it. Since Kennedy was in, maybe before that. And, there's a.
Look at how.
Go ahead.
Yeah, look at how people were turning on Bobby Kennedy Jr.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. The guy. It blows my mind that he literally. Everything that if you're in the Trump circle, including Elon, who was a hero to liberals a year and a half ago. Anybody that's now in the bubble, Elon, obviously J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard will be, in my opinion, the first female president of the United States. She is completely awesome, completely educated, a total military badass, knows her shit, and has had a top secret clearance since she was in her 20s. There couldn't be a better pick for the National Director of Intelligence, right?
Sure.
Kish
I
Patel.
think we'll probably see Vance before that, though.
Kish Patel. All these people that have a long history of doing civil service in the public eye, and being adored for it by both parties are now just poo-pooed on because that's
the Democrat way.
But why though? Why?
They're hiding something.
This Doge has got everybody shaking in their boots. You've got I don't know if Elon's the smartest person that's ever lived. He might be. But he certainly knows.
He's smart enough to surround himself and utilize smart people.
Absolutely. He's probably the best delegator of tasks. He comes up with ideas, finds engineers that can make them happen. But he himself is an engineer. He himself is a genius. And by the way, seems to be maybe I'm going to say this. Probably a genuine nutbag. I think he's probably a little bit, like crazy genius. Not mad, not like bad, but like Joe Rogan says, once he became an enemy of the Democratic Party and the propaganda, you turned a person who doesn't need you. He doesn't need anybody. Even more so than Trump. He doesn't need anybody. You turned him loose. You turned a extremely driven, smart, can't touch him with money, can't do anything, and he's got time. You turned a dog loose on the deep state. USAID is closed for a reason at this point already. Whatever they've been doing since with the CIA for the last, I'll say 40 or 50 years must be some shit.
I think that we got a lot of people that are saying how Robert Kennedy Jr. is shame on him for with the whole it was his uncle that began USAID, John F. Kennedy.
Yeah.
I really don't think that what it was intended for is what it was intended to start as is not what it ended as.
Well, let's here's some things. At least one thing that we know for fact. Two facts. One, the USSR and the Soviets, and to that extent the Nazis, had always said if they had the ability to survey the people then, like we even did 20 years ago, that World War II would have gone a lot different if they had the information. We, as a society, are loose with our personal information. And that's been for 20 years since 9/11. But anyway, that's really not necessarily the point. We know that the CIA and what Kennedy wanted to do with that very likely was to use it as his own, I don't want to say private investigation force, but it was designed because they continued their operations to focus on other things. Those other things were, one of the things was the long plot during the Cuban-American Missile Crisis was to get in there and assassinate Fidel Castro. They were never attempted many times, never successful at it. They invented weapons to kill him, and they couldn't do it. That was U.S. aid through the CIA. They were the funding for all that shit, all that deep state stuff that we know happens. That if you're, you have one brain cell, you understand that. It's very much like the Wizard of Oz. Don't pay attention to anybody behind the curtain. I think that's been going on a long time. Not to be a conspiracy theorist, but I don't. There's a lot of shit. A lot of shit doesn't make sense. The fact that Pam Bondi was supposed to get the Epstein list out yesterday, and then it was supposed to have been done by 8 a.m. this morning, and it's still not out, says that there's somebody somewhere in a basement, probably shredding paperwork as we speak. Because if that list gets out, who fucking knows what's going to happen? I could only imagine what's on that list. And to your point, they're trying to, because Bobby Kennedy was on that plane a couple times. They were friends of the family because he's a Kennedy and everybody does a Kennedy. You know, there's an old saying is if you're doing something right, everybody hates you for it.
Right.
That was gross. His entire family came out against him. Said he was a crazy man. That he's a vaccine denier. And none of those could be any more true. The fact of the matter is he, he's just like a lot of Democrats. Is he says that every time anybody asks him about it, is he didn't leave his party. His party left him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we were young,
just like Reagan said it.
But when we were young, when we were, first time we voted, you remember that whole ordeal?
Yeah.
Al Gore was going to be the next president. We thought for sure. Because
our first vote was for Kerry.
Kerry, yeah. And then Al Gore ran, and he was really heavily running on planetary crisis. Remember? His whole thing was like, and that still hasn't happened. But, we bought it because we were, to a degree, indoctrinated by everything. But, and then even with, Trump the first time he ran, I never thought he had a chance in hell to win. I mean, we were wrong. So, the establishment, as we see it, and especially with Doge shrinking the government, I have this crazy woman that I'm Facebook friends with. We're in a networking group together. And she has TDS. You know what that is?
TDS, I've heard of it.
It's crazy. It affects, up to 50% of people right now. Trump delusion syndrome. Yep. Not only is it Trump, it's anybody that's even attached to him, including Daddy DeSantis. Anybody that's in there.
He's talking about it, our own Doge.
Yeah. Anybody that is in the firmly conservative Republican Party, firmly conservative, fiscally responsible, firmly conservative, that kind of thing. But she, at any chance she gets, will post the craziest, bananas, crazy, and she's by all means, educated person, not going to name names or say what she does, but she's educated. She went to college, and it's TDS every day on her Facebook. There's a post about how
they're just so full.
Today she put in that Doge by shrinking the government is going to allow for Trump to continue to trample on the Constitution and will make it easier for him to be a dictator. So by improving the efficiency and removing jobs of people who
were never needed,
probably never needed to begin with,
or just useless,
is trampling on the Constitution, and he will be a dictator. Because, he did that definitely when he was here for the last term. And this term, he's definitely proving that he wants to be a dictator. He's being a dictator in the sense that he is doing what is best, regardless of what anybody else says, what he feels is best for the country.
Isn't that what's required of him?
But also, everybody he wanted to have in his cabinet, all of the peoples that he wanted to work with that nobody ever thought was going to happen, they all got confirmed. Every one of them. Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Kish Patel.
It helped that we had more control.
It was close. It was close, and it's just this the way that we have things is crazy in America. That so many, and my in-laws are the same way. It's just Trump, orange bad man, Trump. He's bad. Everybody around him is bad. Everything he touches turns to gold and shit.
Well, I was flipping through the channels yesterday night, and our former CNN was that Cuomo.
Yeah.
He's a joke. But anyways, it's funny. Now he's on this News Nation is what it's called, and they're very more about both sides down the middle report it. it's still slanted.
Of course.
But
yeah.
at the same time, I was taken back by what he had said. He's like, listen, the people have spoken, and this is the direction that a major percentage of the country wants to go.
Yeah.
And we are not dealing with a traditional president. This is not a traditional president.
Yeah.
He is not a politician in the sense of politicians. So instead of judging him by his words, because he's not good with his words.
Yeah.
He's very, whatever he thinks and says.
Yeah, that's it.
We need to judge him on what he actually does.
The accomplishments.
Exactly. Forget about what he says.
Yeah.
It's what is he actually doing.
Oh, I put it on my personal Facebook today. I said, just because you don't like the way someone says something doesn't make it any less true.
What was that?
I don't know. I think something just died. It might have been my little tripod here, but I don't really need that. Oh, no!
It died.
Oh, it's dead. Can you
It
just...
went limp.
I think it's got... We're good. We're back.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that there's just so much purposeful division. It's been that way. And I think...
I'd love to know when respecting the office, regardless of who, respecting the office
Of the presidency?
regardless of who it is, what happened to having
Well,
respect for that office?
You had a...
Where do you think that began?
It 100% began with Biden.
No, that was before.
Okay, well, that's awesome. I don't know even that one.
Well, I'll tell you my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And both parties are responsible for the way that the presidency has been treated. They're very, where I think it started was with Clinton, with him getting his blowjob,
Yeah.
and how they attacked him, and they went after him. No, the problem wasn't getting the blowjob.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was lying under oath.
Right.
That was the problem.
Well, no. Also, if that was really the issue, arguably one of the better presidents we've ever had was a man whore. Kennedy was just,
Oh, I know. Marilyn Monroe.
Anything, really.
Whatever he wanted.
Right.
Yeah. Whoever he wanted.
So it wasn't about what he did with Miss Lewinsky. It was about the fact of lying and then the impeachment that followed.
But I think that
also,
they never got over. They were salty over the impeachment.
No pun intended. I'll tell you. I think the Clintons, big contributors to everything that has happened. But also during that time, it's the dawn of the shit that we've been talking about. The dawn of technology being available,
which is where it began.
Pretty quick. You had, I think, if I could Google it, but I'd
Technology
probably break
era,
something. I'm pretty sure Yahoo was founded that year.
99.
Yahoo was not founded in 1999.
Which one? No, it was no.
AOL was definitely around in 92.
In 92?
Let's see.
No, it wasn't.
Let's see.
Maybe 95, 96. Maybe 94. But I got my first computer when I was in...
AOL was founded in May of 1985.
What?
Yeah. AOL's stock grew in the early 90s, and they become absorbed by Time Warner in 2000. When was it first available? In 1989. So...
I never heard of America Online until
1992. AOL went public.
Oh.
And then that was the Lewinsky year, right?
Probably. Was it in the first term?
I'm gonna find out right now.
It's a little
it was 98. Yeah, it's a little
I'm
warm.
schwitzing.
I love the internet. It's like,
And you know
okay,
what?
so it was 1995. So for sure AOL was around. For sure. I thought it was 92.
And
My
that was what,
bad.
Yahoo?
AOL for sure was. I don't know if Yahoo was, but either way, I say that because those started becoming the place you went to get the news. You didn't necessarily have to get your newspaper anymore.
Right,
You
that
didn't
was
necessarily get an editorialized local version of what happened. You can go on wallstreetjournal.com,
Yeah.
right? And that's actually the out of the other category, but the big thing was news, readily available, being able to written at any time, and getting emails. You know,
You
again,
have mail.
but that was a whole part of, I don't want to say it again, but the propaganda time.
Well, internet is a major propaganda.
Yeah. So and then
Spreading.
and we know this why we know for a fact now because of what has happened with X.
Yeah.
Pause real quick. Are we still recording up there? I know it's got a red light, but is it showing?
I see a square.
Yeah, but on the bottom corner, timestamp, it's moving, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude, we're at an hour and 7 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
So, these are the things that I hope that this podcast turns into the to take it down rabbit holes to talk about, and we could talk about I could talk about movies all day. I love movies. You could talk about, I don't know, stuff. I'm sure.
The things I enjoy.
Yeah. So, and then we love to have people in that can add some flavor and spice to that and bring up their own topics of conversation. I'm not in the business of saying no to a topic unless I find it to be inappropriate or too crude. I'd like for our children to be able to listen to our podcast for the most part.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we're at. So, I think I think we can mosey on here.
I think so.
So, thank you if you've listened to this. If you've enjoyed it, drop us a like, comment. Feel free to comment and submit a topic of conversation, or if you want to be considered as a guest, we can do interviews over iPhone to the computer. It's pretty easy. We're here and waiting for your content. Anything you want to add?
Thanks for watching.
Good night.